Hello, thank you for clicking on this link. And today we're going to be speaking with Ben Oakes from Kelsey-Seybold. He's a project manager there. And his experience with the Kelsey-Seybold's Epic implementation and HIT security. So welcome, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me here today. So a little bit about my background. So I went to University of Houston main campus and worked at Compaq at the time, night shift building servers and stuff. Knew I was interested in computers. At first I was double E, but found out they don't design computers in the States anymore. My brother-in-law actually worked at Compaq and helped me get the job. Anyway, so I switched over to IT and been able to move up into project management after doing some working as a system admin for a while and doing help tech support as well. So I got hired into Kelsey. Never had any plans to work in healthcare. They were just hiring, got the job off of university's job site, and that was actually, I got hired because they were rolling out Epic. And when I started there, it turns out it was their third attempt. The first two, they didn't really treat it as a enterprise level project, if you will. Just thought, oh, it's another piece of software, we'll turn it on, it'll be like upgrading, I don't know, Internet Explorer or something like that. It doesn't work like that,
Right.
as we well know, but success is not guaranteed with these things. And so anyway, third time around, we hired a bunch of consultants. Epic likes to present, they call it vanilla. It's how they feel like your business model should run and how your business process should, the ideal business processes should flow, et cetera. So it turns out, that doesn't really work that way. The better business model is to, because you're a clinic, you're successful, you've grown over the years, and your core competencies are what have made that company successful. So to kind of throw all that out the window and go for what a software company and programmers think how things should work is not so much the best plan. Anyway, so what we did is we spent, and it took quite a bit longer and a lot more resources, like I said, with additional consultants and training for everybody involved to make sure that the software fit our business processes. And that has really attributed to quite a bit of our success. I've worked with other folks that went on to other organizations, I don't want to name names or whatever, and They had quite a difficult time. And one of them actually has a pretty badly failed implementation right now. The hospital's recently been purchased by another hospital system. That's not the only reason, but I mean there are impacts.
Right.
This is real money that we're talking about when you can't drop charges and all of your doctors are rioting, etc. So anyhow, what went into our selecting Epic, we had IDX before that, and it was, really like a dumb terminal setup. Like from the 70s or 80s kind of deal. And so you just bring up your little black screen with white text on it and hit 9 for this or star for that, and it was just horrendous. And so Epic was actually homegrown. It's still a private company, so there's a small company or a small family that owns the whole shebang.
Wow.
Just printing money. And anyhow, so they're a big deal up in Wisconsin. But anyway, so they've kind of grown and expanded, so it's not like other companies. I think some are owned by GE or what have you.
Right.
They have they purchased a radiology product from somewhere else, and they've purchased a billing product from somewhere else, and they're trying to have to kludge these things together. It was all kind of, I guess, organically grown, if you will.
I see. Right.
But that's kind of another rub with Epic, is they're very good at their core competencies, but actually what I do, the majority of what I do now is focusing on the things that aren't Epic core competencies, and that's integrating Epic into the rest of the business, and again trying to fit what we can, leverage the information out of our record of truth, if you will, our main authority, and try and leverage that to get billing processes or whatever else. It's not really all that exciting if you're not if you're not on the inside and feeling the pain. But anyhow, that's a little bit of a background. I may have jumped ahead a little bit.
Oftentimes, special considerations have to be made for physicians during implementation. Do you have any stories to this effect?
Yeah, actually, one of the more successful ideas I think that we used during our implementation was we had 2 physician champions, and these are people, I'm not really sure how they were selected, but 2 prominent positions in fairly big departments. One was internal medicine, and the other guy was from pediatrics. So primary care is our biggest patient populace as well as provider populace, and so we went live with primary care first. Anyway, So what this did is we had an actual provider who was going to be using the system that went to training up in Epic. They had a lot of involvement in the designing the workflows and making sure, like I said previously, that the our current business processes were being modeled properly within the software. And so they made a lot of decisions and said, no, do this again, or hey, that's okay, kind of a deal. And it was all from the provider's point of view. And for Kelsey, we're a provider-owned organization, and so they're kind of a big deal. It would be great to have operations just kind of rule the roost or whatever, because it'd be easier for me because I get along with them really well.
Right.
But anyhow, so really it ultimately comes down to the providers, because we're provider-owned. That's what we do, and is obviously provide healthcare, not just IT solutions or new initiatives, etc. So anyway, that really helped a lot, I think, for other providers to feel like, okay, somebody's on my side, that's making these decisions, and they have somebody they can go to and talk to directly. If hey, when I'm ordering labs, it's driving me crazy because the patients are getting lost on the way to the lab and they don't know what to do, or whatever the case is, and so they can talk to another physician, and they're able to have their grievances heard and be able to have a more provider-focused, especially since this is mostly change management, is
Right.
a lot of this
Right.
what we're dealing with. You can get past a lot of difficult personalities with that, and there again also, coming from IT or just operations, somebody raises a stink because they think they're a big deal, and they weren't the physician champion, so they're really upset. Actually, I was in this exact situation. This guy just complained about every little thing.
Wow.
Well, this isn't going to work. Well, I need that. Oh, I need to be able to just dictate directly to the computer. So we bought the Dragon dictation software.
Sure.
And I mean, that got to be his little pet project. I'm not sure he even really uses it. He just wanted something to be his.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
there's a lot of personalities, and
Sure.
that's kind of where we can maybe segue into maybe the care and handling of physicians, if you will. People don't go to become a provider because they want to use a software system that is
Right.
full of rules and restrictions and pop-ups, and
Right.
it won't let them order this because that other thing has happened, or whatever. They're a doctor because they want to be special. They want to be seen as smart. They really are skilled people. At this point,
Right.
they're out of school and have some experience by the time they're working with us. But quite a bit of our population of providers, they can't type. You know
Wow.
what I mean? Smartphones are a new thing.
Wow.
And that's a different level when you've got, especially it can be kind of a blow to the ego and a difficult day-to-day routine to have to ask, 22-year-old guy or whatever, let's say, you're a very professional and established provider and you can't do your job. You have to have somebody standing there in a red shirt to tell you how to do whatever in front of the patients, in front of your nurses, in front of your peers.
Wow.
So there's quite a bit that we did to try and allay fears, build up some confidence. So some pointers are, when you do obviously want to have training for the providers, make sure you don't have the training any more than a week before they start using the system.
Oh, okay.
Because it just drains
Because
out.
they'll forget.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't use it, it goes away.
Wow.
And the night before or the weekend before, we always went live on a Monday. So it was either, we had Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday night. Dress rehearsals is what we called them.
Oh.
And so we're there after hours in the clinic. The providers are there too, and so are their nurses. And this also validated that stuff was printing where it was supposed to. All the computers worked. The screens came on, et cetera. Everybody's logins and accesses and security, all that stuff.
Right.
You walk through like you're live. So we had people that were patients, if you will,
Right.
that had their script to go through. So they'd see the provider. The provider would use the smart sets or whatever. Kind of segue into what a smart set is. Instead of just a piece of paper where they kind of scribble down what their notes are, and the nurse has to realize, okay, well, a doctor does this, that, and the other, and tries to get that into coding,
Right.
and so we can bill for it. With a smart set, they're able to type, .physical, and what that does is it'll blow in a predetermined block of text, and anywhere there's 2 stars, pardon me, that's where it's a required entry point. So you get a full paragraph for a physical, And then you just hit tab and it takes you through the stars. You put in their blood pressure, their height, their weight, all these other statistics, all these other, vital signs. Did you ask this question? No, they're not a smoker.
Right.
Because we need to justify what we bill. We need to make sure that, all this stuff is in the provider's head. It's actually happening, but if it's not in the system, it didn't happen.
Right.
As far as insurance goes, as far as compliance goes,
Documentation.
as far as, it's got to be documented, or, God forbid, if we get sued, we're up the creek.
Right.
Because all this stuff is discoverable as well.
Sure.
And so that's something else then you can get away with, or it seemed to be, the idea was that doctors and nurses could get away with some little side notes about, difficult patients or whatever the case is, where they would, so they could give somebody else a warning maybe. They'd open up the chart and say, okay, this guy likes to yell about the Broncos, who knows? You know what I mean? But you can't do that kind of stuff with, you just can't. And it may have happened before, and but now that it's all, electronic, it's much more discoverable. And the handwriting is not indecipherable. You can't hide behind that in the witness booth or whatever the heck when you're testifying. Well, no, I write that I like posies or whatever instead of patient poses a threat to your security. Or anyway, whatever the case is. So anyway, doctors become doctors to practice medicine, not learn a system. A lot of them can't type, and so you have to get over that hump with them. And sometimes you just have to say, okay, well, get Mario type. Whatever it takes. Here's some online resources that will really help your practice to learn how to type.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And also the top-down mandate with the physician champions. Like I said, we're provider owned and run. So we have a provider at the top, and he made a decision. This is where we're going. This is what's happening. It's get on or get under the bus. And that's the deal.
So when you tell a physician to go to Mario Type or practice your typing, do you get much pushback from that?
Sure, a lot of that comes down to the presentation of how you say that. To me it's funny. Hopefully to you guys it's funny too. The provider doesn't think that's funny.
Right.
Okay, that is not a joke to them. So at that time, if they can do hunt and peck and get their work done quickly, then that's fine. But usually we spent a month at each clinic and during Go Live, and some providers took to it like a duck to water. It was no big deal. We cut their schedules in half. That's another good accommodation to make, and it's just fair for the patients as well, to where people aren't staying 3 hours after the clinic is closed trying to get their physical done or their shots or whatever the case is. Anyhow, providers notice, and they keep track of who's going fast, who gets it, and who doesn't. And if they're behind the curve, they don't want to be seen as a laggard.
I see.
They
Right.
There's all kinds of metrics and so forth, and a lot of times. We do have some pay for performance kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So if you've got a blank schedule and you're not doing anything, you're really having trouble if you're seeing half as many patients as, let's say, the new young guy out of medical school that's really got the system down because he used it during his residency.
Right.
So they'll come to you and they'll ask. Maybe not in front of everybody else, but they'll say, "Hey, how come Dr. Mortazavi really gets this? What's he doing differently that I'm not doing?" And that can come down to, we can build a customized smart set for them because, maybe Dr. Mortazavi is the is the physician chair for the department chair, I'm sorry. So all the smart sets are his. You can customize your own smart set as well. So that's where you kind of look at what are the questions that you ask, what's your flow for your physical. Not everybody does the same things in the same order for their questions.
Right.
So you can accommodate them in that fashion so that they can still be doing their regular work. And do it quickly without having to find out, okay, which part am I at now? But that's also where you can say, well, if you could type, it would be far easier. And the first reaction you get is, well, that's what I have a nurse for. That's not what you have a nurse for, okay? You need to type that in as a provider because these are provider notes.
Right.
Your nurse has nurse's notes, and those are hers and hers alone.
Separate, right.
And so, because what the process was before, they'd scribble on this, big chart on this kind of piece of paper that was a triplicate with carbon copies and whatever. X this, mark that, whatever, throw it down. Because for the month before we went live, all of our red shirts actually were deeply embedded in the front desk processes. So I got to take these terrible charts with scribbles all over them and enter that into the old system. You know what I'm saying? So he diagnosed this. It's a level 3. Whatever. I think there's 5 different levels of office visits.
Right.
They bill accordingly.
Yes.
So it was a level 3 office visit because that's what he put. I couldn't read this stuff, so I had to ask somebody else. And most of the time, honestly, they were They were just guessing.
Wow.
And there was, like I said, no documentation, no justification, and the provider didn't care. You know what I mean? He's there to see patients. He'll scribble on this stuff, throw it down, and it's somebody else's problem. Now it's his problem. You see, and that's where the top-down mandate really helps, because they got to get with the program.
Right.
And also, next time they see the patient, and also with continuity of care, the patient goes to another department. I mean, you want to have that information there. You want to have it relevant. You want to have it accurate. But so there's a lot of there's kind of a lot of pain points, and you really are changing how they're doing it, and they're also a bit of a hit to the ego, as you said. Right. And whether it's Mario type or whatever it is, I mean, something that they'll be hopefully amenable to if they can do it on their iPad. I mean, who knows?